What the puck is up? You are just in time for another episode of MB2 Underground. I hope you're feeling invested. I'm Sarah Kiefer.
Wow, and I'm Joe Fox. She has
You
a
like
strong intro game. That's
Okay,
impressive.
I'm taking this off now because it's hot. It was just for the intro.
It's going to get hotter. No pun intended. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Just pretty good?
Yeah, I've got a crick in my neck and I've been fasting, so, highs and lows.
So we're not going to be hangry this episode, right?
No, I ate my pack of olives.
Do you have any news to share with our family of listeners, my friend?
What kind of news are you looking for?
I don't know. Any bling bling that you could throw up to the camera?
No, just same old, same old.
Come on, please don't do this.
You have to say it.
Okay, so hot boyfriend is no longer hot boyfriend. He is hot fiance.
He is hot fiance.
Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you so much. Do you see how pretty my ring is?
It's beautiful. So he did incredibly. And he's a good-looking young man.
I think so, too.
You guys are going to make some pretty babies.
I feel like you're going to try to steal him from me, and now I'm uncomfortable.
No, I mean, it's okay. It's 2024. I can have a man crush, right?
Okay.
Let me be. But anyway, congrats, friend.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Now what?
We have a fun guest today.
Yeah. This is going to be fun. Why did you call him hot a second ago?
Oh, I'll tell you that story. Somebody called him a hot dad in an Orange Theory class. Anyway,
okay.
we're gonna do it. It's
Interviewing a hot dad. Okay,
yeah,
let's
exactly.
do it.
So this guy's pretty special to the MB2 organization. Just take a step back. Dr. Villanueva is a really damn incredible entrepreneur.
You said damn.
I did say damn. I think I'm okay to say that. He has a very unique, special business mind. He's very hands-on with this.
I thought you were going to say very handsome, and I was like, you got to chill.
I mean, he's a good-looking guy too, yes.
Hands-on.
But very hands-on with this, $4 billion business, right? And I think one of the important traits of any great entrepreneur is that they know when to hire specialists, right? They know when it's time for the organization because they recognize that hiring specialists is going to help the organization get to another level. And not only do they recognize when it's time for that, but they pick the right people, right? They're good at selection.
Right. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Shout out.
And so this episode, we get to talk to really one of the first, experts that Dr. V hired. So, and he talks about that as being an important inflection point for the organization. So
I am excited to hear it from the other side now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some fun stuff to discuss. So without further ado, the favorite son of Colleyville, Texas, graduate of Texas A&M University of Houston Cougar Law School, El Presidente of the MB2 Dental organization, Mr. Justin Puckett. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've avoided this for
we know
6-7 months now, but yeah, here we are.
The big question for the day is, do you approve of the puns?
Yeah, I mean, you have been no doubt trying to rehearse that, and that I don't even want to know how long that took you, but I'm impressed.
The puck one was yesterday, but the Justin and the vest, that was literally on my way here.
Well done.
How did these come to you? You're like daydreaming, and it's just like in the shower and drive?
No, just staring directly at a wall and zoning out, and then bam.
Boom.
What the puck is up? I thought that was really funny.
Yeah,
Thank
genius.
you.
So we got a lot of fun things to talk about, man. A lot of questions. You have a lot of stories about the early days and a lot of perspectives on the future. But maybe kind of back us up to kind of your early career. Like you were grinding it out at like a top 5 law firm as an associate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, back it up for us.
What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I went to law school because I thought I was going to be a sports agent. Like I watched Jerry Maguire when I was like 8 years old. And
I can kind of see that
show
for
me
you.
the money.
Yeah, thought it was great.
Yes. I can see that.
I think my mom still is like, oh, where the hell did you go wrong? You're in dental now. What happened? You're supposed to be a sports agent. But no, I was working at a large law firm in Dallas and had kind of first seen the dental industry. I didn't know, this whole thing existed outside of just when I went to the dentist as a kid. And
what kind of law was it?
Mostly like mergers and acquisitions, the real sexy stuff. So mostly private equity and, all transactional contract work. And I was working, crazy hours and at some point was like, yeah, we gotta fix this.
This isn't sustainable. Working the kind of hours that make you cry every once in a while, right? Like the all-nighter type hours.
Didn't cry, but make you probably worse thoughts. But no, it was good training, good experience. I just knew I didn't want to do it forever. I wanted to be more entrepreneurial.
Yeah. So how did you make that leap into what was next?
Yeah. So when I was at the large firm, I came across a dental deal, and back I had no idea it existed. But I was like, what's private equity? What's this thing happening? And
what year are we in at this point?
This is 2010.
Okay.
And so I randomly, one of my college roommates, his wife was working at a real small dental office. I think they had 2 locations at the time. And so I was kind of talking with her one night, and I met the dentist, and I kind of told him what I was seeing in the industry, kind of the roll-up consolidation, financial arbitrage. Mm-hmm. He was like, what the heck are you talking about? But, I just quit. I quit the big firm. One day I was very newly married, no kids yet. And like my wife and my parents were like, what the heck are you doing? You're taking like a 70% pay cut.
What do you mean you quit
going
your
to be
job?
a dentist? And so I'm like, no, I'm not a dentist. We're going to go help. And so I went to work for a small, DSO, I guess at the time. It was, we had 3 locations and did everything. I mean, it was 3 corporate employees. So
wow,
name
I didn't know that.
any title you can come up with. But that's how I got into dental, and it was a very different model than MB2, which we'll get to. But I kind of saw it was an all associate model, all one brand, kind of mostly in the Dallas area, and just kind of saw some cracks in that model. We grew it to about 25 locations.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Within like how long? What time span? A couple years?
No, like 18 months. It was pretty fast. Yeah.
What made you make that leap? You're talking about a 70% pay cut. What made you say, this is it? This is where I'm going next?
Honestly, I just knew I wanted to get back into business, something I knew I did not want to. I mean, my problem with the legal world was my widget was my time. So I'm billing every 6 minutes. I'm like, wait, so eventually long term to make more money, I have to work more. I'm like, I'm not that smart, but that sucks. So no, I just knew I wanted to do something. And when I saw kind of the opportunity in dental, I'm like, this could be pretty cool. And I have an accounting background. I was like, I can do some finance stuff. Now that we have like real accountants and real finance people, I realize that I probably should never have been doing that. but no, that's kind of I just said, let's just do it. And so I was young, no kids, so I was able to make the move.
So 25 locations in 18 months. Then what?
And then how did I get to MB2? And so here I was. I thought I was like this young, know-it-all in dental, which wasn't that big of a space back then.
You're still in your 20s,
yeah.
right?
Oh, baby pucks.
I know I was before the gray hair and everything now. But I got a phone call from a random guy one day, and he's like, he was a recruiter, and he's like, you're a lawyer. They're hiring for a general counsel position at MB2, and I'm like, it's in Dallas? I'm like, I knew every group in Dallas. Yeah. I'm like, that doesn't exist. And he's like, no, it does. And like, this recruiter was like not letting go. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go talk to him, but never even heard of this group.
Right. Why are you so obsessed with me?
I was like, so yeah, I mean, I remember the day I came over, I drove out here to the lovely warehouse district in Carrollton, Texas. And, I'm coming from like my super flashy office. I go right by the Crescent in Dallas. Wow. Like life was good.
Yeah.
I think we all remember the first time we drove to MB2 and like we're in the area for the first time.
They're like turn right past the racetrack, go by the dog training facility. All true.
Not the other dog training facility.
They're like, and then you're there. And so that was. We went upstairs, and it's funny now. I was in a suit and tie, full suit.
Wow.
I mean,
I can't even picture that.
Did you get hazed for that? Or?
Oh yeah, when I walked in, I met Dr. B, and I saw, a couple of his original cronies, Dr. Rodano and Dr. Schwan, were sitting in the other room, looking. I'm like,
who is that guy?
Oh boy, I'm like, what
I messed up.
I mean,
the rolling in t-shirts.
Oh, I'll never forget. He gives me a hard time for this, but he had kind of like frayed jeans, this orange, like if you remember that store in the mall Structure.
Oh yeah.
Like it's been out of business for like 20 years, and there's a reason.
I love it.
But like he had this orange shirt with a lion on it, and I was like, I'll never forget that. And I was like,
the funniest thing I've ever.
And
heard.
literally, I'm like, that shirt's at least 12 years old. Like that's they've been out of business for 20 years.
Dude.
And so, the whole time I'm like, wait, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. I'm like, can this guy afford to pay me? Like I don't. And I'm looking at the office building. I'm looking at the 2 cronies, how everyone's dressed, and I'm like, So by this time, my wife's pregnant. And I'm like, we're gonna have a baby like in like 7 months. Like we gotta figure something out. But that's that's how I met Dr. B.
Wow.
And so when we sat down, it kind of clicked because and I never heard of the group. I had no idea at the time that was all intentional. MB2. I'm sure I've gotten the name before, but I was like, we're onto something here because when he told me, it was all associate. It was all about the doctors there. And I was like. And I'd called a few people that I knew, like another college buddy was an associate, one of the offices at MB2, and they were happy. And that was the thing. I was like, when he approached it from the partner model, and we didn't know DPO at the time, but it literally was partner first, doctor first. And as a non-clinician, I had seen the other side.
The opposite approach.
The other side was true corporate, all associates, really no autonomy.
Yep.
And I was like, he's onto something here. Because as simple as it sounds, they were happy.
Wow. And
I was sitting in the chair in Lacey Building, and I was like, And he had no idea. They were at, I think, 25-ish locations, all spread out, and didn't have a ton of central services built out, but he had some. Yeah. And I was like, man, I think he could be onto something. Like this model just clicked with me. I'm like, we could really do this.
You talked a little bit about the name of MB2, and I know most people know the story, but jump into that vision for us real fast. Why Dr. V went with the name MB2? At the time we were MB2 Dental Solutions?
Yeah, and I'm not kidding. I was 4 months in. I thought it was his two kids' initials, and I thought the logo was the Filipino flag. Dead serious. But no, when I asked one day, I'm like, what is it? And he's like, oh, it's the mesial buccal tooth canal, in the logo is what it looks like through loops. And I was like, next question, what the heck is that?
What's a loop?
And he was like, no, but he's like, no, look, it's a dental dork term. It's it's a hard to find root canal. It's an exam question. And he's like, it's very intentional, in which, they decided this over fajitas and margaritas at Papacitos. So, good things come from that. But he's like, we wanted it to only be known by dentists. He's like, the fact that you had no idea, he's like, that's what it's working. Yeah, that's what we're after here, And so
I think that's so cool.
I think it still does today, I love telling that story because it's still true.
Yeah, absolutely.
11 years later.
Yeah, it makes it very clear when you're walking around giving a tour and all the conference rooms are dental terms hey, this place is designed for clinicians, for doctors.
Until you call parroted to a dentist and you're like, that's what I meant.
Or MILF or MIFL. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know we make that mistake. So how did you know that Dr. V could afford you?
Yeah, I'll take you full circle. So first day I show up to work.
In a suit?
So you said yes.
No, I didn't. By this time I knew I didn't have to wear a suit. And so I show up, I've got, I think I brought a little briefcase. I had no idea. And I show up and, the sweet lady at the front desk who actually is still with us today.
Wow.
She takes me to my office. She's like, okay, you're the third office on the left. I go up there and there's a girl sitting in the office working. And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm the new lawyer guy. She's like, no, you're not. I'm the lawyer. I'm like, oh. They hadn't told her that I was starting and she was no longer
so you're
working.
Oh, wow.
This is 8:05 a.m. This is within 5 minutes. And I'm like, we're off to a good start so far.
And so your title at this time is?
General counsel.
Okay, continue.
So I became president. We'll get there probably 3 months later. But so that was my first 5 minutes here. And then Dr. B gets in around 9 and he's like, okay, come to my office. And he sits down and he goes, sir, I heard you think I'm poor. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No.
Can he read my mind?
And I was like, he goes, no, I heard you think I can't afford to pay you. And I was like, what? And I'm not processing it yet. And he goes, you know that recruiter you talked to, right? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, that's Dr. Schwann's dad.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like,
I love it. Oh, confidential information. Thank you.
Okay. And only in a Dr. B way, he I had on his phone and he had his bank account from me. He goes, I'm only going to do this one time, but I can afford to pay you. And never talked about it again. And then
the bossest move I've ever heard.
It was great, and he still gives me a hard time about it today. And because I think I'd also made a comment about I was like, yeah, he was talking about he had money, but he was driving this Jeep thing, and I'm not a car guy, so I didn't know nothing. And he's so frustrated that I didn't know it was some super souped up
fancy Jeep,
one of a kind.
He's talking about horsepower. I'm like, buddy, I believe you, but and 10 minutes later, he's like, and this is day one. He's like, let's get in the car. I'm like, oh, what? Where are we going? He's like, let's just get in the car. So I get in the car and we.
What is the car?
That's still his fancy Jeep. We drive to Waco, Texas, to meet. And again, he's not like, Tim's like, yeah, we're going to visit some doctors. And I met Dr. McCulley and Dr. Town. We were going to look for an office for Dr. Town's first office.
And this is an hour and a half into your first day.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm like used to, like, this is so different. I'm
Chaos,
like, what
yeah.
the hell did I do? What did I sign up for?
What happened to the other lawyer? Is she gone by this time?
Yeah. Yep.
That's why y'all left. So
Yeah,
she
good
could clear
point.
out her desk.
But we went down and I met 2 owners that day, and we looked at real estate, drove around, came back. I think we had a lease signed like 3 days later, and I mean the pace at which he moved, which I still love about what he does today. I was like, okay, this is going to be fun, just because it was fast. Everything was fast. Mm-hmm. So I remember getting home from everyone's like, "How's your first day?" I'm like,
I don't know.
A lot
yet.
happened. Like, we did a lot, but I think it's just kind of it set the stage for the next 11 years. Basically, just hasn't stopped. But yeah, that was my first day and first time at MB2.
Your sweet, beautiful wife was willing to deal with that.
Yeah, I left out
Pregnant.
a lot. I
You
left out a lot of
missed
details.
beautiful pregnant
Beautiful
wife.
pregnant
No, we left out a lot of details.
I love thinking about Dr. V in the early days, just like let's get in the car and let's just get out there. We had our MB2U event not long ago, and one of our associates that bought into a practice, so she's an owner now. She used to, back in the day, be an associate with one of our offices. And so she told the story with the group of how Dr. V, one time they had something go wrong at the practice, and he drove from Dallas to Houston and fixed it himself and drove back.
Yeah.
And that's
hands-on.
That's
Wow.
how I see Dr. V. Is just the guy that's like, what do we got to do to get this done?
It's still, I mean, and that was the thing that was like, he didn't know what they had, and like I could see it, and but there was still like, and it's still, I still think we are this way today, but it was scrappy back then. I mean, we would drive all over. We'd pile in a minivan, go anywhere in Texas, and just get stuff done. Like, they'd hang IT wires. I mean, I was filling out Bank of America applications to get like a $30,000 piece of equipment approved.
Wow.
I mean, it literally was just kind of get it done. Everyone flowed in different departments. It was literally just all hands on deck. And I mean, even at that time, for the first couple years, he interviewed every single associate that came through, and would interview him and then be like, okay, you'd be a good fit with Dr. DeMarco, or you'd be a good fit with Dr. Parks in Houston. And I mean, so very, very scrappy to the nth degree of every kind.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk us through 25 locations to kind of next big milestone, right? How did that happen? How did they get there? How did you get there?
Yeah, I mean, at this time, we're all de novo. So literally, and I always said, like, Dr. B's done so many things genius, but early on, it's a very young company. I mean, he's the oldest at 46. I'm about to be 42, and so we're much younger than him, but like, everyone's young, and he kept all of them poor. What I mean is, they would literally, right when they made money, they would go put it back in the company. We had no debt, so it was putting back in the company. Wow.
You got to really believe in something to do that.
Yeah,
100%.
I can't imagine anything I'd do that for.
Like, that's what I always say. Like, that's, I mean, and especially to all the early on owners, I mean, that's what they did, is that we'd save up money, open a new location. We couldn't afford to do an acquisition, so we had to do de novo. But we would just go around Texas. We were in New Mexico at the time, Oklahoma, Alaska, but that was like, we would just literally do. I think the first year we did a couple locations, because that first year was spent honestly trying to building out what is now MB2 headquarters. So
admin support
departments,
services.
Because at that time I would say that was not the strength.
What year was this?
This is now. I joined in 2013. I would say 2014 was our building out the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. What's so fascinating about the industry is there's a lot of groups now. There's like 200 DSOs, and a lot of the groups, they're just chasing financial arbitrage, and they don't understand how hard it is to do that, to build those admin support services out.
I think we were, some of our, like, the scrappiness of starting with a bunch of money, a pile of private equity money, is we literally had to be so kind of just focused on every dollar. So take the corporate, the headquarters at the time. If we we added an office, we got a little bit more revenue to bring in, we would say, where does this money get spent? Mm-hmm. Do we need, and by the way, we needed everything. Like, do we need a COO to build out a marketing department? Do we need a compliance officer? Like, so we had to be very, very, very kind of diligent on building out our team, which forced us to be scrappy. Yep. And I think that still resonates today. I mean, almost every executive started at a different different department, different role, and it's always been that way of just get talented people, get people that work hard, get people that have the soft skills to talk to doctors and understand our model and how it's different. And I think, that's kind of from day one, that's kind of what we've instilled of just anyone hiring is just, are you scrappy? Obviously, we have very, very, very smart people, but, most importantly, can they work with our partners?
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Kiefer is a great example of that. You're answering phones or marketing, and then boom, now you're running a group.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about very smart and scrappy, and I was like, yes,
that's what
me.
I mean.
Yes,
you were an example of that.
Thank you. You talk about the time where you needed everything, and you can only do how do you prioritize in a situation like that where it feels like everything is urgent and you've got to do it bit by bit?
Yeah, it was tough. I think you're picking one out of three things that you honestly needed.
Yeah.
That's being generous. But so we just had to say, what is the most pressing? And honestly, what else can other people pick up along the way? Because we were working a lot of hours. The partner, again, with the beauty of the models, the partners are doing stuff. They were marketing. They were their own COO. We didn't, they were the events committee. They were credentialing. They were all these departments for them. It's because, and that's what they had to do until we could grow.
And that special culture still resonates today, with things like the sidecar funds and even just Cerebro and how doctors help each other interact. And, that's pretty damn unique and pretty special.
It's super unique. And I would say that is the secret sauce. It's not that we have the smartest executives. We have some secret formula for bringing in new patients. No, we have owners who care about their local practice and also care about the greater good of the group.
Collaboration.
And that's, there's so many examples over the years of this person moving here to help this person. That is what MB2 is.
Give us one example.
We have had numerous times where doctors have literally moved states and joined a different practice where, whether you're an associate, we've had owner to owner. It happened.
Specifically for supporting somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is cool.
I remember early on, I would go with Dr. Dordano. We'd fly out to New Mexico whenever Dr. Gonzalez was on vacation or doing something. He'd go work.
Oh my
gosh. So
gosh.
we would, that's how it, and I thought that was just normal at the time.
Yeah.
And, we spent a lot of hours in the Honda Odyssey piled in, just going to do whatever.
Is that the minivan?
That's the minivan.
But it's not the fancy
minivan.
Jeep.
Not at all.
Didn't you guys pick up a hitchhiker homeless man at one point with the minivan?
Yes, his name was Earl. I will actually, I'm going to request Dr. B to tell that story.
Okay, so we'll save that for...
Save that for him because, yes.
Did y'all have to say goodbye, Earl?
Earl's story.
Dixie Chicks reference?
Thank you.
I got that.
Damn, girl, old school.
I just want to say you've said damn 3 times now, so I never want to hear anything about my
I think that's on the okay
podcast.
list.
Okay.
I think so.
So we're not telling the Earl story.
No, I think Dr. B, he'll be perfect for that story.
I'm hearing a lot of new stories.
That was a bit that story from. I think I know part of it is there's some big events happen that week or weekend. Yeah, maybe we'll get Dr. B to talk about.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so first recap, 2017.
Yeah, no, I think to go back a little bit, we, private equity scared us, right? It was the culture, the model is so specific. You hear horror stories.
Yeah.
What's it going to change? What's it?
So those horror stories were already out.
You hear about it, and just not even in dental and other industries.
Yeah.
And
I came from a horror story, so I know just me as a little marketing coordinator peon was terrified.
Yeah,
really.
And by this time, we've started to build out the team. We hired JC, Justin Carroll. Susan was hired by then. We started to kind of build all these little building blocks, and we were very protective of it. But there was a time, we're sitting in Dr. B's office. This is probably January of 16, maybe Christmas of 2015, and a lot of the owners were in town randomly for a social event, not some CE. And we were sitting there, and he was like, if we're ever going to literally make an impact on the industry, which at that time, people were not doing our model. We could not get a bank loan because of our model, because they said, well, no, there's cross ownership. There's too many people involved. They're not all the same.
Wow.
You're complicated.
Yeah, it was a negative. And he's like, if we're ever going to make an impact on the industry, which he believes, and we all believe still, that this is how every model should be, which the doctors call the shots. And he's like, we do need to take on a financial partner. We don't have the money to acquire offices. We knew we needed to kind of take the next step, professionalize the business. And so we kind of spent that, I would say 2016, just kind of looking into it, started the professional business, hired a couple more people in anticipation of this event. And then in 2017, after like a grueling process, we talked to I think it was 120 groups. We found our first private equity sponsor, Sentinel Capital, who was phenomenal. They're out of Boston or New York.
Do you remember the toast that night? Because I remember being in marketing. I joined in summer of 2016, and I don't know if the transaction happened later in the day or if it was just celebrated later in the day, but we used to work 9:30 to 6:30. So there wasn't anybody really at MB2. And we worked upstairs close to where Dr. V's office is. And I remember hearing a bottle of champagne pop at like 6 p.m. And me and my little marketing friends walked over there, and they had Solo cups and a bottle of sparkling wine, and they were celebrating. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'll drink.
Yeah, she came running down the hallway
Damn straight.
real quickly. But
There were like 5 of us in there.
That's another, good example of MB2. Yeah, we're drinking out of Solo cups and probably like literally sparkling wine we bought at racetrack down the street.
I love it.
But yeah, no,
Best of the best.
that was kind of the first impasse of the company.
Well, maybe back up a little bit. Tell us about some of those really other key hires, right? JC and Susan being, obvious, examples of that. What was that like? How were you able to, and how was the organization able to like lure them from their
Lure
situation?
them. They're a creepy guy in the woods with candy.
Well, hot dad. We're talking.
I don't know how
here.
to again, at this time we didn't have private equity money, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to use a word that's not underpaid, but we were not offering the most lucrative financial.
You lowballed them.
Well, and by the way, I was Exhibit A, we just didn't. So everyone's like, oh, your exec team's so young. I'm like, well, yeah, because we couldn't afford to hire someone that had like a family.
Yep.
But so I've known a lot of our executive team were friends of mine. I think, and people always ask like, that's playing with fire. Why do you do that? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've always gone back to like, well, I'm taking out 80% of the risk of
totally.
Are they good people? Will they work hard? How will they interact with everyone? Do they have an ego?
Well, and Dr. V kind of started with people that he was close
100%.
to. Yeah.
100%. It was friends and family. And I think, so we've kind of just built it up that way. And so like JC knew my wife very well in college. He's the godfather of my daughter. And he was working crazy hours in the financial industry, and I caught him on a bad day. And I was like, looking for a CFO. Do you know anyone? He's like, me. I'm like, oh, no, dude. You live in Dallas. Like, you're rich. We cannot afford you. And he's like, let me just go and interview. And like he drove over, had the same reaction when he saw the building.
Yeah.
But he was like, I think he's onto something. Like, and so I think everyone who has joined us, and it sounds super cheesy and cliche, but they really did believe like we're going to do something.
Yeah. They believed in Dr. V's vision.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
And I think even at this time, it had extended down. He joined in late 2014. Even the other owners believed it. Like, I think that's what Dr. V's done so well is take the belief he had and literally instill it so many layers beneath him of like, no, we are doing something for the greater good of this industry. We are doing something unique. And this is the right way to do dentistry, both from, a chairside perspective, but also from a DSO perspective.
Well, and there's been a lot of jokes over the podcast episodes of like all roads lead to Puckett, but I think that you were a really good vessel for V's vision. Like he did a really good job, especially, in the early days of having such a clear vision of where this was going to go and making sure that the people he brought in bought into it. And all you're doing is advocating that.
Yeah. And it was and it's an easy sell for me because I've seen it. I believed in it. And I talked about it a lot outside of work. And that's how, a lot of the people who have come through is just, they'd be like, well, that sounds interesting. I mean, I brought up MB2 to Jeff Salucci, who's our chief strategy officer, probably for 3 years. Same with Jackson Hildebrand, our CFO, and even Clint Ellenberg, our CAO. I've talked about it just in, social settings. And eventually, again, I would catch him on a bad day, like a little wounded dog. I'm like, okay, come interview now.
I just picture you like in a voice recording saying MB2 and they just listen to it while they sleep.
The puppet master.
I wasn't that
The
good.
Puckett master.
Puppet master.
No, I mean, I think, but I also think I
loved it.
It creates a cult, like, it's work, but like you work with people you like.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I mean, and there were hard times. There was, we've been through a lot. There's good times, bad times. And when you're with people that you don't mind being at work, because we're at work a lot.
Yeah.
I think it helps. I think that's why everyone stayed. I think that's why, I've been here now 11 years, and it's still the same in a lot of ways. It's so different, but it's still the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah. You've been here 11 years, and you said 42, so you started 31-ish. And you saw all of this.
Yeah, that's good math.
Thank you. I was in AP classes.
Yeah.
But that's just crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Like being 33 and coming in and doing something like that at 31. It's a brave thing to do.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think now looking back that I'm older and like probably much less risk taking, I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, and I'm the lawyer guy.
Yep.
I'm no contracts. I didn't have an employment agreement.
Wow.
None of these. I mean, it was like all our first
Handshake.
transaction we did. I would say maybe 20% of our legal documents were signed. We couldn't find half of them, and I'm like, okay. But everyone agreed, and like that's what I mean. I think what the company's been built on is just, I mean, I would say we were growing too fast to even care about that stuff.
Yeah.
It really was. We're going to build something unique here.
Vision first, everything else we'll figure out. So prior to the Sentinel transaction, were y'all encountering potential partners that you wanted to be part of the fold, but maybe you like literally couldn't afford to partner with a
Yeah, I mean, I think because
practice?
again, the doctors, our partners are the vessel to getting us out there.
Mm-hmm.
And by this time, they're like, why? Because the model was come work as an associate,
Yep.
then we'll go open your own practice.
Yeah.
We'll build it. But they're like, oh, I have a buddy who already bought a
Yeah.
practice and he loves the model. He doesn't want to do anything else. He wants to have the autonomy, but have the support. And we kind of saw where the industry was going.
Yeah.
And that is what started Dr. B's head. He's like,
Yeah.
there are good partners who would fit culturally, who believe in the same thing we do,
Yeah.
but we literally cannot afford them.
Yeah.
We couldn't get a bank loan. We tried 1,000,000 times.
Unreal.
And so that was the precipice of if we want to really do this,
Yep.
we're going to have to take on a partner. And obviously, looking back, it was the right thing to do.
So Sentinel was that shift from a de novo growth model to an acquisition growth model.
Correct.
Although neither really stopped.
We had done a
but-
couple acquisitions before. We would just pool the money together. Dr. Joe Dove was our first one, and
Wow.
I never forget. We closed. We literally gave him a Happy Gilmore sized check, one of
Love
those giant
that.
checks. And so, like them and the Boulevard guys, Dr. Crockett and Ramsey, like those were the early on. But
Wow.
I mean, I remember going to do the diligence for the Boulevards. We literally, people always say back of the napkin. Dr. Lee was literally doing the purchase price. We didn't know what multiples were back then. We were totally making it up as we went, but they believed in
But
us
it worked,
too, and
yeah.
they've been rewarded, and so have we.
Yeah.
Wow. And then at what point is Susan here? And then Jake's in 2017 as well.
Yes,
right?
Susan Huff, who she is now our chief integration officer, chief of staff. Sorry, she's
Correct.
held more roles than anyone at this company.
Mm-hmm.
I had a buddy introduce me to her in 2014. I took her to lunch every 6 months for 2 years.
Wow.
And she'd be like, at the end of lunch, she'd be like, no.
Man with a plan.
I was like, fine, but of course, like,
Persistent.
this is a metaphor, a euphemism for all women. But the last time I was like, hey, I'm not going to ask anymore. Like, we're good. Let's just be like,
Let's just
if you
be
ever
friends.
like, yeah, let's just be friends. Like, I've asked you to come work at MB2 4 times. Like, it takes me a while, but I can get a hint.
Yeah.
And like at the end of that lunch, she was like, so I'm kind of ready now. I'm like, okay.
We just got generalized into one category.
I'm
Thank
just-
you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But that was
that is a
and so
strategy I've heard about.
She joined. I think she was like director of specialty. Again, we've made up a lot
Oh,
of titles
yeah.
here, a lot of titles. But she fit the bill of everything else.
Yeah.
A do-it-all person.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Had been in the dental industry a long time. She understood why we were different, and I knew she would work harder than anybody else, and just get it done. And that's, she's now had literally probably 4 or 5 positions, and is an invaluable member of our team. And then, we started. That's when we hired Jake, because they're like, you need a director of business development. Which Dr. B and I stared at each other. Whoa, what's
what is
that? 'Cause this time we're doing the integration.
Yeah.
Dr. B and I are going to meet these doctors.
Wow.
We're speaking at all the dental schools. We're interviewing everybody.
Wow.
We had no idea, but they're like, you got to hire this Jake guy. And so we did, and he joined right before we partnered with Sentinel.
Hey man, this has been an absolute blast and extraordinarily informative. But producer Brittany over there is giving me the evil eye, so we're gonna have to wrap this one up. So
Just have to bring you
apologies.
back.
But we're gonna catch you on the flip side and bring you back, my man. So, listeners, thank you for joining us for another great episode of the MB2 Underground podcast. Catch you next time.
Bye, besties.